Now, COP29 is over, but where is climate diplomacy headed? What role, if any, does Germany play in the future of climate negotiations? DW's Warda Imran joins us from Berlin. Warda, how is Germany reacting to the $300 billion commitment made at the end of COP29?
Thanks for having me. Well, this year's COP climate talks wasn't business as usual for Germany. Following the collapse of the ruling coalition here, Chancellor Olaf Scholz bowed out from the summit and was absent in Baku from the climate negotiations. But Germany has, in recent times, ramped up their commitments to slash greenhouse gas emissions. At this climate summit, Germany did reinforce its dedication to climate policy, but had an overall very cautious approach when talking about finance. Comments on this topic have come mostly from the Green Party. Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock pointed out that while Europe has to live up to its responsibility, and by this she means responsibility of historic emissions in the last 80 years or even longer, so Europe definitely has a global responsibility because of emissions. But the foreign minister cautioned against making promises Europe can't keep. And this notion has been repeated many times over. This promise of $300 billion by advanced countries for developing countries echoes the promise made of $100 billion in climate financing by advanced countries that was meant to start in 2020, but was actually realized for the first time just this year. So the reaction from Germany has been a bit cautious.
Also, Warda, the EU's long history of CO2 emissions puts it in a unique place of responsibility. Will it come through in terms of funding?
Yes, well, this is the big question, and one that creates a lot of confusion as well. Let's talk about emissions. The EU is one of the top contributors historically for greenhouse gas emissions, coming second only after the US. So these two areas, the US and the EU, carry more responsibility for historic emissions than China or India or Russia or even Japan. And the people suffering because of these emissions are from vulnerable islands that are on the forefront of floods and rising seas. And they appear to be really unhappy in Baku. And this is because developing countries openly said $300 billion is not enough. The cost now goes into the trillions. India's negotiator Chandni Rai called the deal an optical illusion. Many shared similar comments as well, saying this deal was more so for saving face than anything else. But the second part of your question about funding, that's a big question mark, because there are promises made at conferences such as this one, but it's years before they're ever actualized, and by then it might be a bit late. As COP wraps up, talks begin in South Korea on how to curb plastic pollution. But the discussions there have also been plagued by severe divisions.
Warda, thank you. Warda Imran reporting there from Berlin.